unfortunately, a lot of our problems come from the fact that companies have created things to be more convenient for human beings. But problem is, in that convenience normally comes the stuff that's bad for our health.
Hello, welcome back to the Ideal Home Show YouTube channel. I'm Louise Gookey, and we are back today with Charlie Lemmer. And this time, she's going to be giving us 3 easy and effective changes to boost the health of our homes. And we can start this today, which is quite exciting. Charlie, thanks for joining us again.
Hello again. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. All right. So we are back to talking about the health of our homes, really, and how that affects our health. So we are looking for some tips today, some practical tips that we can do. And I want to start off with something that you've mentioned before. And if anyone hasn't watched Charlie's first interview that we did here at the Ideal Home Show YouTube channel, go and check it out. Something you mentioned in there was air quality. Air quality in our homes. So how does it affect our well-being?
Right. Well, basically, bad air quality affects us respiratory. Obviously, we look at things like, this is going to be really sciencey now, we look at things like PM 2.5 and PM 10, which is basically the different sizes of the particles that are in the air. So, for example, there'll be particles coming off when you cook. So if you're a bit fond of a bacon sandwich, then I'm sorry that you're going to have to make sure that you're exhausting the kind of smoke and everything from your cooking to the outside air, because in many modern houses, they've got like cooker hoods above, but all they've got in is a charcoal filter, which does absolutely nothing. So basically, to improve your air quality around cooking, you really need to be exhausting all the smoke and your cooking into the outdoor air. So that's basically where I would start with the cooking side. Other air quality issues basically come down to things like fragrances, which are more, and chemicals in cleaning detergents, which are more about VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, and other gases. So much smaller, but still as dangerous for your health. So that affects us basically, it affects our respiratory health. So people get asthma, and also affects our autoimmune health because they're endocrine disruptors. I can't even say that word. Basically, it means it's disrupting your hormones, which can lead to things like autoimmune issues. We've seen massive kind of reduction in fertility rates over the last kind of 10 years. A lot of that is down to things like VOCs and chemicals and forever chemicals in our environment and in our homes. What else can we look at? As we mentioned before, basically VOCs and gases in your furniture or coming off of your carpets. And also a lot of dust mites collect in carpets, and that's basically contributing to things like asthma, allergies. So really what we're looking at when we're thinking about air quality is we're looking at how it's affecting our respiratory system, how it's affecting our autoimmune system, and that leads on to kind of other issues down the line.
Just want to, I know you mentioned sort of VOCs and the chemicals that are going into our air. I always think about them as always that new car smell, isn't it? Or the new carpet smell. That really is what it is. How long does that last? Is it something that's around forever, or is that something that actually will go after a time?
Well, it depends, really. I mean, they say that most new furniture will off-gas in around about 6 months. So if you have, you're exactly right. Basically, it's that new car smell. Some people really like that smell. I'm like, oh, it's that heavy petroleum-y, horrible smell. And lots of people say that things can off-gas in about 6 months. Other things take longer. And as we know from a lot of the media and stuff at the moment, there are things out there like forever chemicals, which basically never go away. I mean, they might stop kind of off-gassing from the furniture, but then they kind of will end up in the dust in your home, or they kind of move on to other, or your water supply, or, out into the environment because you're flushing things down the toilet or whatever. So these chemicals never really go away, but they probably stop affecting our health dramatically after about 6 months if you're buying something new. That's why I quite like to encourage, buying secondhand furniture, really, because it's already done that.
Yeah. And I mean, and of course, that's even better for the environment because we're not using new resources. So we are, win-win. Another thing that you mentioned that's a really big thing in our homes, it is something we do weekly, most of us, is cleaning.
Yeah.
There are so many products out there on the market, some which really obviously are strong chemicals where you end up choking on them when you're using them. And then there's the more natural things, such as things our grandmas used to do, using lemons, using vinegar. What cleaning habits can help us be healthier?
Well, I think I would start with telling people that it's important to wet dust, because just the simple kind of like fact of like wetting your cloth before you're dusting is really important, because basically otherwise you're just shoving the dust around, and it just goes from into the air again and goes from one spot to the other. So it's important to wet your duster basically to collect that. I think on a cleaning detergent angle, I mean, I love using lemon and vinegar and things like that, but quite frankly, I never have the time to make up my own cleaning detergents or cleaning products. So I've become a bit of a fanatic recently with probiotic cleaners, because I really like the fact that it's kind of leaning into the whole kind of science that we know now around our microbiome, and how we're all taking probiotics for the gut, and how it's really important to keep that in balance, and how it's important basically to be in tune with our bacteria and not kind of treat it like the enemy. So that whole science has moved across into cleaning products now, which is fab, because I love that geeky stuff. And so that is all about not kind of, the traditional kind of idea of cleaning is kind of like blitzing the place and like making it clinically clean. Using probiotic cleaners is about kind of being in tandem with nature, really, and having your home in a balance, and having your home as a kind of indoor microbiome. So yeah, I love those too.
Yeah, I find the whole probiotics just fascinating, because like you say, it's working with nature and working with what we've got.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the science actually at the moment, funnily enough, they've over-cleaned in places like hospitals, which is why they have had so many issues with things like MRSA bugs and, other kind of issues going on in hospitals and viruses and stuff, because actually they've over-cleaned, which is a bit like difficult to get your head around sometimes. But basically, I think it's like we've had this kind of weird mentality towards cleaning, as everything has to be like torched, bleached, especially in COVID. I think that kind of like came on a lot stronger. But I think we've quickly found out how that's really not good for our bodies and not good for our microbiomes. Also, you kind of using all these antimicrobial, antibacterial hand washes and hand creams has basically brought about quite a lot of kind of skin issues for people, because the same principle really it's taking away the natural bacteria that we actually need to be clean and need to be healthy. So it's just changing that mentality around what cleanliness is, really.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, let's talk then about, I know we've spoke about air quality, some easy swaps there, cleaning as well, easy swaps there. What are your go-to healthy home habits that anyone can try outside of what we've already mentioned?
Right. Well, I, at the moment, never seem to get enough sleep. Because, I mean, when I went into perimenopause, annoyingly, suddenly sleep abandoned me. And so as a kind of like biohacker as well, I really like to kind of like lean into my sleep and work out what's going on with that. So my bedroom has to be without any technology in it at all, because if you're having blue light or anything coming off of technology in your bedroom, it affects the melatonin production in your pineal gland. So basically your pineal gland, which is the one that produces melatonin and helps you go to sleep, thinks that it's daylight. So it
and
basically
that's from the light from your screen, basically.
Exactly, yeah. So it keeps you awake. And so I've banished all technology out of the bedroom. I mean, I kind of did that quite a long time ago, really. But another thing I think is important to say is that it's normally not dark enough in people's bedrooms. So if you can see your hand in front of your face in your bedroom, it's too light. So it needs to be as dark as possible. And so I really like putting in a lot of, thick blackout curtains, which are pretty cost effective, really. And you can take them with you if you're kind of moving house or if you're renting. So it's pretty, a pretty good investment that you can kind of take with you.
And they're good for insulation as well, aren't they?
Good for insulation, good for noise insulation, and good for kind of energy insulation. And yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things I think it's important to invest in, and you get a much better night's sleep. What else? I think maybe moving out of the bedroom, I think it's very important to move away from non-stick cooking. I don't know whether you saw the film Dark Waters. It was out years ago, but basically it looked at the whole kind of industry behind non-stick cookware. It's quite hard to say that. It still really worries me that I see people buy this stuff and, you know, that they're still sold in shops. And so I really try and encourage people to take a look at their cookware and change out any non-stick cookware for glass or ceramic, or titanium. I mean, there's some really cool companies out there at the moment. They're doing really, really healthier cookware. Yeah. But I think it's important because, of course, we eat every day. So, you know, everything we cook is, if we're cooking it in plasticated, you know, cooking pans and non-stick cookware, that plastic and those chemicals are going straight into our food and straight into our bodies. So, you know, I know a bunch of people who are really militant about eating organic, and then I look at their cookware and I'm like, yeah, but you're chopping on plastic chopping boards, which also isn't good because you're chopping up microplastics into your food, and you're cooking with cookware that's non-stick. So again, the kind of plastics and, you know, contaminants and pollutants in that is going straight into your food. So I think that's like two key things, actually, and they don't cost fortunes. I mean, curtains for your bedroom and, you know, changing your cookware is a good investment, I think.
Yeah, and something else you mentioned that I'd love to ask you a little bit more about, just when you were talking about the noise insulation. Is noise something that can affect our health?
Yes, it can, indeed. Basically, the WHO say that noise is, behind air pollution, is the second most contributing factor behind air quality, as I said, to premature deaths in the world. Wow. And when you think about that, it's really strange. You think, well, hang on a minute, how can noise basically cause damage to my body and cause like premature deaths? But essentially, it's like a constant attack on your nervous system. So, and our world has got noisier and noisier and noisier. And, you know, every 5 seconds there's a beep here and, a, you know, a distraction somewhere else. And not only is that kind of having a detrimental effect to our mental health, but on a physical level, it's affecting our nervous system the entire time. Yeah. And if you think about when you go to sleep, you don't physically close your ears. You know, they're always open. So unless you're wearing kind of massive
earplugs.
Thank you. Yeah, earplugs. That's the ones. So I think, it's really important to kind of pay attention to noise. And one of the investments that I've made in my home is to put in some really nice acoustic paneling to try and cut down the kind of noise issues. I think it depends. If you've kind of bought your home, I think it's worth the investment. Obviously, if you're just renting, there are other things that you can do to basically stop reverberation of noise in your home and also kind of stop noise coming in. As you said, curtains are quite good for noise insulation, and there are other kind of techniques that you can use as well.
Amazing. Wonderful. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for sharing these tips with us. And it's those small changes, isn't it, that can, hopefully make such a big difference to us.
I think so. I what I would love people to go away with really is just that it's about kind of just making a bit more conscious choices. I think, unfortunately, a lot of our problems come from the fact that companies have created things to be more convenient for human beings, but problem is in that convenience normally comes the stuff that's bad for our health. Yeah. So I think it's about doing what our ancestors used to do and our grandmothers used to do. The long way round, maybe it might take more time, but it will definitely be better for our health in the long run.
Yeah, we need to inconvenience ourselves.
There you go.
Amazing. Charlie, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And of course, thank you for watching as well. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can find out more healthy home ideas and hear from our experts right here at the Ideal Home Show's YouTube channel, including a previous interview we've had with Charlie as well, and hopefully many more to come. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon, and thank you again, Charlie.
Thank you, Louise. See you later.